Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. My next guest is Coach Greg Vogt. He's a founder and director of PRP Baseball. It's a baseball training facility in Indiana which uses data and technology to help improve player performance from young kids to college players, even the professional leagues. And he's here to join us now to discuss how the facility is helping produce the future stars of baseball. Hi, Coach. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, you're the founder of PRP Baseball. Again, it's passion, resilience, process. We'll get into that. People can follow you on Twitter and follow what's going on at the facility at PRP Baseball 101. And of course, check out the website, www.prpbaseball.com. Again, thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Now, it looks like you opened this facility in 2018. And I guess how would you describe it? Is it like a baseball camp? Is it a development camp? How would you describe it?
Yeah, sure. So we're actually part of a building called Finch Creek Fieldhouse. It's located in Noblesville, Indiana, and it's the building's huge. It has 6 basketball courts, 70-yard box of turf, it has cages downstairs, upstairs, it has room outside. The hope for is to build some outdoor fields on. They run anything from basketball training to baseball training to lenders up front that run either rehab or sports training, sports performance work. So it's a bunch of different things within the same building, and our company partnered with them when they first opened in 18 to run all the baseball training out of their facility. So we have access to the turf, our own weight room, and cage access so we can use for our hitting, our throwing, and our weight training on a daily basis. And we just basically share with the building on, overall our signups and our training, and we build our schedule accordingly. So it's gone really well. I mean, obviously there's a big development with that big of a building. We were in a building about 1/100th of the size 3 years ago, so it was definitely a big upgrade as far as space and demand and need for that type of training on the east side of Indianapolis.
So what motivated you once you get to open a place like this? You'd have to get some partners and say, hey guys, let's do this. What was the story behind it?
Yeah, so we started personally, the company that we started was PRP. That we were doing some group training, some private lessons. We were training high school kids, 8-year-olds, professionals, but it was really just a side job at the beginning. I was actually teaching. I was a PE teacher to start and a high school baseball coach. And, as the training got bigger and better, we figured we had to find a way to get into a facility more full time to meet the needs of the clients. So I actually stepped down from teaching and coaching at the schools to go full blown into the training world. So at that time, I met with the founders of Finch Creek and those partners. And, when the building wasn't even up yet, we were trying to figure out a deal that would have us be the main baseball trained source within the building, because that's what they were looking for. And we were obviously looking for space. So that's how it started and how it developed. And I mean, honestly, year one, we ran one winter program. It had 35 kids. So now we're looking at about 150 every off season. Right now we have about 80 college players, about 12-ish professional baseball players that train with us on a daily basis. So it's definitely grown a lot and it's been fun. Obviously there's growing pains that come along with that, but yeah, anything from your 8-year-old just getting into baseball to professionals really wanting to dive into the nitty-gritty details of what separates them to the big league level is what we can handle.
So who's tougher to work with, the adults or the kids?
Adults, no doubt about it. Yep. The kids can always have their own set of issues, but typically the kids want to be there and always have fun doing it. But whether it be parents or the older athletes, there's usually some bigger fish to fry when it comes to those issues.
Now, I guess there'll be a demand for that type of facility, but obviously last year with COVID and all the social distancing and things shut down, it must have been tough. So how did you guys get through that?
Yeah, we basically went 100% remote for about 4 months, from middle of March until we reopened. I want to say right at the beginning of July. So we were kind of working out some outdoor fields where we were allowed to get on, just kind of having guys throw and play catch, lawn toss, keep their arms in shape, maybe some bullpens here and there. But honestly, it was hard. We didn't have anybody paying for service. We were just trying to keep, people able to do stuff because we had no idea how long it would last. So when the building reopened, it was a huge demand getting back into the world of training. So it was definitely a different dynamic when we grew really quickly because everybody needed somewhere to go to get better. And only so many places were open.
Yeah, and something like that, training. I mean, you just got to be around the coach. You need everyone else next to you to see the examples, and must have maybe hindered some athletes just from, developing a little bit, just because it's not the same when we're all together on the field.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there was no baseball until middle of July. And even then it was very hard to even get something organized or have fans or, so many people in the building or at the outdoor place. I mean, it was a mess for a while. So fall baseball was a lot different last year. There was, a bigger need for fall ball. So our training kind of got pushed back in a sense, like our calendar was changed. So a lot of things going in this fall and winter of 2020 into 2021 off season was a lot different. So a lot of different things you had to adjust with, but as always, you got to adjust and learn and do the best you can.
So I read that, you played some ball both in high school and in college, and had a couple of records at Anderson University. But is there anything at this facility that, you want to portray and teach or show that wasn't available, when you were developing?
Yeah, I mean, I graduated high school in 08 and college in 12, and it's crazy to think it doesn't feel like that long ago, but the difference in training from then to now, and there was nothing wrong with what we were taught. It was just, we didn't know or dive into these things, whether it be weighted balls or weight training more specifically, anything from medicine balls to core velocity belts. One of the first follows I had was Alan Jaeger with the J bands and long toss. And that's why I just started finding bands anywhere I could and just doing arm care stuff with the J bands. And then I long tossed more. And that was like the first thing that I learned that helped my arm, one, stay healthy, but two, actually be able to have a little bit of velocity. So yeah, people always say, all we care about is the velocity side, because that's our ultimate goal for guys, is to learn how to pitch better and throw harder and get to the next level. When really it's funny is I never threw hard. So, and we didn't know how to train that at that time. We didn't do a lot of lifting. We ran a lot of cardio. We threw enough, but not ever to the point where you're overstressing, the arm in between outings. Is more so like outing to outing. So the way it's changed has been good for the sport. I mean, obviously we're at a point now where the fifth guy out of the bullpen still throwing 98 with 90-mile-an-hour slider for strikes. So, the game is definitely advanced, and the training's a big component of that. And, I definitely train players and even myself now a lot differently than the way I did just, 10 to 12 years ago.
And, just getting, sticking with pitching, obviously one of the problems recent years is just the insane amount of Tommy John surgeries. I mean, are there steps that, facilities like yours are taking to try to protect pitchers and protect their arms, for the long term? Or is it something that if you throw hard, it's just inevitable to happen that you're going to need the Tommy John surgery?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not. It should never be accepted that it's going to happen. There's no lie about the fact that the harder you throw, the more stress you're putting on your body. It's just like golf. It's just like any other sport. The faster you run, the harder you hit it, the harder you throw it, it's more stress. And typically that comes down to the decelerators, not the accelerators. So when your main decelerators being your rotator cuff and your lat, they have to take on a bigger brunt of the workload. And sometimes whether it be the strength and conditioning or the mechanics or even just the overall workload management, whether it be pitch counts or innings a year, that forearm and bicep end up putting a lot more pressure on areas that don't need it. And that's where obviously our UCL joint gets pretty upset with us. So the harder you throw, the more risk. I mean, we get, whether it be in our area or nationwide, you see a lot of facilities catching slack for, having guys that get injured or guys that get to a high level, but then they get hurt. It's like, well, no one really ever complained about a kid that was throwing 75 getting hurt. There are not many kids that throw under 80, 85 that have major injuries because the engine's not big enough to put enough stress on the body to make it break down in that serious of a way. So, we try to do everything we can to avoid it. I mean, any arm injury to us it's not good. Whether we can avoid it or we can manage it better. Everybody's different. Every arm is different. Everybody's mechanics are different. And obviously you're combining fall baseball, off-season training, spring coaching, whether it be middle school, high school, youth, and then you're having summer baseball. So you're dealing with a lot of different coaches. You're dealing with a lot of different, tournament types, pitch count rules, and there's no one way. Pitch counts can help, but they're not going to save anybody. It's more so how well they train in between their outings, how well they build up in the off season, how they manage the stress when they are sore. And again, it goes back to not that long ago, it was just told to ice it and run. And really that doesn't do anything to technically help you recover your arm. So nowadays the training's gotten a lot more advanced, or specific at least, to help the body recover better so that you're not just trying to manage in between outings, you're actually getting better and recovering. So the next outing, you're not just doing the same thing over and over again. Because if you look at over 100 innings for a high school kid or 200 innings for a professional, I mean, you're on survival mode. Then your off season, you're just trying to give it a break to recover.
And with weight training involved, there's also questions like, how much is being too bulky, and you should be more flexible. So how do you balance, especially a pitcher? Like with the Mets with Noah Syndergaard, it seemed like he was lifting a lot more, and then he had some problems. So like, what's the balance between weightlifting and being flexible for a ball player?
Yeah, I always tell our high school guys, especially, that need to be in the kitchen a little bit more often to go look at some of the hardest throwers in the game, whether it be durability wise, velocity wise, anything that comes down to successful pitching. Those guys are huge, and it doesn't have to mean looking like a bodybuilder, but they are huge human beings from their legs all the way up to their shoulders. So I mean, everyone's seen the Aroldis Chapman pictures where the guy looks like he could be in a boxing ring or in a bodybuilding competition the next day. Guy throws 104 for 10 to 12 straight years with very little arm problems. So, there's the magic pill of trying to find out what the fine line is of, being big and strong, but also taking care of your mobility and keeping that as an aspect to keep your delivery in order. Because if you get too tight, you're not going to get into positions that optimize your mechanics. So, we try to spend about as much time on mobility, recovery, and core work as we do our strength training. So we want to get bigger, we want to get stronger, we want to put on good, healthy weight, but we have to maintain the mobility. So that's a huge component. I mean, we all know there's only so many guys that are on the skinny side that I would still argue are very strong that can throw that hard. There's only so many Jacob deGroms, Chris Sales of the world compared to your Nolan Ryan, your Aroldis Chapman, and Garrett Cole, any of these guys that, have done it for a long time. I always go back to, if you can't command a fastball, it doesn't matter. No curveball is going to save your career. If you can learn how to throw a fastball to 4 different spots in the zone, and then the ability to throw a good changeup, your curveball will come along. And again, a good curveball can separate you. There's no doubt about it. It's one of the most highly recruited tools in a pitcher, but it takes time. You can learn bad habits of trying to throw a breaking ball because you're not able to physically throw it the right way with your lower half, and you're able to get out in front and actually turn the front half of the baseball. So commonly I'll see kids come in that say they have a breaking ball at a young age and they're throwing it wrong. So it's not only more stress at that point, but they're learning a bad habit too. So then you have to kind of work backwards.
The great thing about your facility is that, for a player who wants to get a showcase themselves, you're able to use data on the release point and all stuff. So how do you incorporate, film and data so these pitchers or just players can, assess themselves and provide a report on, the statistics, how fast they can run, their arm angle and all that stuff?
Right. So we try to measure about as much as we can, whether it be your running speed, your exit velocity, your throwing velocity, whether it be a position or on the mound. And, it comes down to having enough radar guns and technology to measure those things. Their numbers, they are a very credible data point, but it's not end all be all. If we put someone's measurements of the same type of kid, performance wise on the field, but one kid throws 90 compared to 85, and you don't have to ask me college coaches to find out which kid they're going to choose. Depending on a lot of other factors, we want to make sure that we at least have data for them to understand not only what they are, but where they need to get to. So, if we look at all the higher level athletes, we try to measure not just their performance tools, but also their athletic ability as much as we can. So we'll measure broad jump, 10-yard dash, vertical jump, and their lateral bound distance, which would be right leg to left jumping laterally, just to kind of show them like, hey, look at these guys that throw this hard or hit this hard and how well they do these metrics. So we'll try and measure medicine ball velocity with a step behind on the mound, and then also in a scoop for a hitter. And it's pretty clear trend line on where the guys that hit the hardest and throw the hardest are at the top of those measurements. You're always going to have outliers, but we found out that a lot of our guys that, have some of the best 3-rep sumo deadlift numbers, or trap bar deadlift, or split stance lunge, and then also their medicine ball run and gun also have the highest pitching velocities. So we always tell guys, okay, you're here, but if we get these other metrics up, then this should go up with it, because this is one tool that's setting you back from a power output, a mechanical standpoint, or just a strength output that's holding your body back from throwing harder.
And for scouts, obviously there's certain things like velocity or power they're looking for, but what other kind of things that they're looking for, whether they're looking to recruit a college player or maybe someone for, the minor leagues?
Well, lately it's definitely the spin rate. Not just spin rate, but your spin metrics, your movement profiles, how your stuff tunnels together. So we try to use them as much as we can, whether it be Rapsodo, and we actually just got a TrackMan, which we're very excited about, to be able to use these data points for scouts. So, again, you take two kids that throw 85, they both have good command, they both have the same type of frame, but one kid spins it at 2,300, another kid spins it at 2,000. That kid with a 2,300 has an advantage. And again, we could break all that down, but typically spin is going to win, whether it be on a breaking ball or a fastball. It does help decrease batted outcomes. So whether it be batting average, exit velocity average for opponent hitters, spin rate is definitely a metric that helps that.
And let's just say someone's going to showcase themselves for a scout. What advice would you give to a young player or a young pitcher?
Start in the weight room and build a foundation, learn the proper movements, see how your body moves, who you are. The weight room and understanding movement quality is key because your pitchability, your arm health, your velocity is always going to continue to get better. But the foundation is something that you have to set at an early age. So we try to push as much as our younger clientele to invest in those sides of things, even though they're not as fun. So as they get bigger and stronger, the more important things will continue to grow. When you compare a kid that maybe joins us at age 16, moves pretty well, has decent stuff, his velocity is above average, but he doesn't have that good foundation that's holding him back. It's going to take longer on a shorter amount of time frame that he has to get recruited because you have to revert a little bit backwards. And the things that take the most time are strength and body weight. They don't just change overnight. You have to spend a lot of time doing it. So we really try to promote those things for our clients and make sure they not only understand the importance of it, but you start to really learn some toughness and commitment level when you tell a guy you're not getting to do as much of the fun stuff. You have to buy in on this stuff first so you can get better. And that's going to take time.
I saw one of your blogs that you recommended actually training is probably more valuable than playing games. Because, when you're in a league, maybe you might play here or there, but if you're training every day, that's actually more valuable for your development.
Right. And that's gameplay and game performance is always going to be king. There's no way to trump how you perform in a game. But you post one video on social media these days with a certain metric, and you automatically are going to get a chance. You're going to get invited to the party to have a chance to play at that level. It doesn't mean you can play at the level, but it's going to give you a shot. You go out and we have this conversation a lot right now with fall ball kids that played all spring and summer, and they're talking about going out and playing fall ball. And it's like, well, I haven't gotten recruited. I need to play fall ball so I get recruited. It's like, are you not getting recruited because they haven't seen you, or because you don't throw hard enough, or you don't have the hitting ability to play at that level? Those things don't just change in game. You're not going to learn how to throw harder by throwing more games. So understanding what's most valuable, which for most kids is the overall physical ability of performing at a high level with numbers, that takes training. That doesn't come from in game. You still need to be able to perform in game, but if the one thing holding you back is the physical metrics of your performance, then you need to invest more in the training side than the playing side.
I think, didn't you mention your blog? There's an actual Twitter handle that the scouts actually follow, and to see these type of players.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Flat Ground app. Rob Friedman, the pitching ninja. First off, me and him go way back. He's done amazing things for baseball, and I can't speak enough about what he's done for the social media presence for kids at all levels, whether it be high school kids trying to get recruited or professionals trying to find a spot. I mean, I think he posted a couple of videos of a guy throwing upper 90s at a random yard, and all of a sudden this guy's in pro ball. And again, it doesn't mean you're automatically going to get there if you throw hard enough, but it gives you a chance. And they retweet and share pretty much all posts that have a credible video with a credible number and that kid's information. They'll share it, and thousands of coaches and scouts follow them. And all it takes is one to like it and give it a chance.
In recent years, people look more at the mental aspect. I remember my little league coach would smoke a cigarette in the dugout and just yell and scream. But how's the game changed in terms of what your facility is trying to do for the mental aspect of players, so they could focus and focus on the task at hand and maybe not get anxiety or get nervous?
Again, I grew up in that same environment, whether it be me growing up playing or even my first career as coaching, thought you could just beat the will into players and make sure that they understand that you care as much as they do. But the hard part is the mental capacity of the kid has to be confident and calm when they're performing. It's a game of failure. So they're going to fail more than they're going to succeed. You knocking down their mental component of the game is never going to be beneficial. And some kids are mentally tougher than others. Some kids can handle a little bit more aggressive coaching, but in today's day and age, unfortunately, it's not as accepted to be coached in a certain way. And that may not be right or wrong, but for most people, they have to find a way to adjust their coaching style to the kid to get the most out of them. So, we had our 18U team this year and we had a lot of success. And that was the first time coaching, in game about 3 or 4 years for me. And just, I noticed it myself, the things that we were saying to players was so much different than 4 or 5 years ago with what they're trying to accomplish. We were not trying to just put balls in play or, just throw strikes. Like that wasn't our coaching philosophy. It was put the ball in the gap, put the ball over the fence, throw it by him, make him strike out. Like our approach was to be the aggressor, and if you lose, you lose, but go down with that type of attitude. If you punch out, it may not be as bad as, shorten up your swing and hitting the ground ball right back to the pitcher with the runner on first and nobody out and getting into a double play. So, we're not saying that we just want guys trying to swing for the fence with 2 strikes, but, having that mentality of in the box, I'm better than you and I'm going to get my best swing off or I'm going to throw you my best pitch in any single count because I know that I can beat you. So just trying to coach that approach to the game has really developed. And obviously you see at the big league level, strikeouts are higher than ever. Home runs are higher than ever. Velocity and strikeouts on the mound are obviously as high as ever. You can change the score a lot quicker when you get your best swing off. And, stringing together a bunch of singles, whether it be high level 18U baseball or professional baseball, it's very hard with how good pitching and defense is now, whether it be shifts, whether it be scouting reports, and just the amount of video that you can break guys down before the game, all that stuff has changed. You can't get away with holes in your swing or tendencies on where you put the ball in play. It's just everything's harder now. Some of the best hitters in the game don't hit 300. So that's how much the game has changed from a physical component. So from a coaching component, we have to adjust.
And for players that are maybe struggling, whether it's, a little leaguer, a high school, a college player, or a pro, is there like a common trait you see that, that they show off, or certain something you pick up that it's all common of why they're struggling?
Yeah. To me, it's how you deal with failure. There's kids that can be, cold as ever. They couldn't hit anything. They can't throw a strike. If they're struggling in any component of the game, do they take that and use that as fuel to go and work and get better? Or do they use it to just say, well, I hope I get better or have better results the next day? Because as we know in this game, baseball at all levels, it's not that simple. So yeah, just really how they manage failure and how they manage even success, not getting too high, not getting too low. Trusting yourself and your work ethic, your preparation is, you can see that in kids and how they respond. Again, obviously your little leaguers and in lower level of baseball, there's going to be a lot harder ways to get that done when you're playing multiple sports or you're not able to get to the facility as much and do that kind of stuff. But if a kid goes 0 for 4 and he's trying to find a way to see what he did wrong or what he could do better, that approach is 10 times better than the kid that's, just trying to find a way to not talk about it and hopefully the next game gets better.
The facility has only been around for a couple of years, but and you probably have a number of these stories, but what's like maybe top 2 or 3 just feel good stories of someone who attended there and improved themselves and found some success?
We have a couple guys that had some really cool stories. The first one, and probably the most prevalent one right now, is Sam Bachman. He was just drafted 9th overall by the Angels. He's been with us since he was a junior in high school. He just got drafted after his COVID sophomore year in Miami of Ohio. He was the number 3 pitcher on his high school team. He threw hard, not the best in-game pitcher at the time, but had good stuff and could get away with things. And I can't say enough about his buy-in from that point on. And he redeveloped his body. He redeveloped his delivery. He went from throwing 84, 86 as a junior to legitimately sitting 97 to 99 this past year, touching 101 in game as a starter and a slider with like a 70% swing and miss rate. So, it was fast for him. He was one of those guys during the quarantine and the time down. they wasn't able to perform because he lost his spring and supposed to go play a high level college summer league and everything got canceled. Where he really took off from a physical standpoint. And I mean, he showed up not far after sitting 94, 95, and then was all of a sudden 97, then 98, and then goes out this fall and spring and becomes a top 10 pick overall. So he actually just got signed and drafted by the Angels, and it's not going to take long for him to move up because his stuff's just that good. But again, came from a place where he was a good player. He had a foundation that was already really good. He wasn't that far off, but taking himself from, again, no college offers as a junior, pitching like 20, 25 innings as a high school in a high school season, taking yourself to that and making yourself a top 10 overall pick is pretty cool. We have another kid, Andrew Ducanch, who's going to be a senior now. He's one of the top, I think, 10 kids in the country, committed to Vanderbilt, sits 94, 96, touches 7. We've had him since he was going into 8th grade. And I mean, really kind of started like one of our first middle school programs. And, you knew he was special just by how much he cared, how hard he worked, and the things that he did off the field and in-house in the training. And obviously just his mentality on the mound it's vicious. So he's been really fun to watch because when you get guys like him, whether they're younger or older, they bring guys along with him. Like when he shows up, everyone's like, oh, Andrew's here. Like, we got to be on our A game. Like, he's going to go out there and try to pull down 105. I don't want to be the guy not trying to throw hard, or I don't want to be the guy skipping reps. So he's really helped change our culture from, again, going to 8th grade and now going to a senior year. I mean, I remember just when he got his first phone call from a recruiting standpoint, how happy he was. And now we're talking about he just got named PG All-American. He's definitely going to be at the talks of a high-level draft next year. His numbers in the spring have been unbelievable. He had a 19 out of 21 outs, struck out 19 through no hitter in the Marion County Championship game against a team that was very good, and struck out the last 9 hitters. So, I mean, it kind of speaks to his preparation and how he manages, because the spotlight's been on him since he was in 8th grade. I mean, he could have very easily taken the easy way out, relied on his talent and that sort of thing, but he would never be at the place that he's at now without his work ethic. And I mean, he's in the building all the time. He's helping other kids out. He's always pushing other guys. So, I mean, from a standpoint of 4 or 5 years in a row, that's been really fun to watch.
So again, people could check out about the facility and if they want to be able to attend the camp, it's prpbaseball.com, and of course follow you on Twitter in the facility at PRP Baseball 101. Again, appreciate your time, and just good luck with the facility. And again, I know you're going to produce a lot of future stars for the game of baseball.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me again. It was fun.